we're now going to start a protest and a riot at Rockefeller Center. I mean, you got to ask yourself a question. Do these people, like, have any respect for anyone?
Get out of here! Get out of here!
Start this video out by talking about something very, very close, or at least I wouldn't say close as far as like near and dear to my heart, but definitely something that I've always wanted to do. You see, I've been in New York City twice in my life, and most of you guys who follow this channel know that I like to talk about the migrant crisis, the situations going on in blue cities. However, I've been there twice, and quite frankly, both times I've been there, I've always enjoyed myself. I'd love to go again. But there are two things that, quite frankly, I have never been able to do in my two trips to New York. The first one was in 2001. I went with my family to go see, it was a trip that was being paid for by my stepfather at the time. He was a Yankee fan. Of course, I'm not a Yankees fan, but still at the same time, during that magical 104, it wasn't, that wasn't, no. I'm thinking about the Seattle Mariners, my bad. But still at the same time, I love to slip these little mistakes in there so that way you guys can know I'm not some full-on computer bot. But still, going to New York City in August of 2001, the Yankees were having a series against the Mariners, who were in the middle of a magical season, which of course would end up ending. And of course, going to Old Yankee Stadium was really kind of a highlight of my life. But there was something that, quite frankly, was another highlight of my life. My mother ensured that I had a lot of fun. And I wanted to see some things that, quite frankly, anybody would want to see. So when you're in New York City, you've got the Empire State Building. Went to the top. It wasn't as expensive at that time and got to see the entire city. I wish I still had those photos. But later on that afternoon, we went down to the World Trade Center. Now, of course, this was roughly 3 or 4 weeks before 9/11. So I'll never forget the images standing on top of the South Tower, or maybe it was the North Tower, I can't remember. I think it was the South Tower. And I got to look across and I got to see the Statue of Liberty and all that stuff from Lower Manhattan. There was one more place that I would love to go see that I did not think about at that time because I was 16 years old. That place, of course, was Rockefeller Center. Now, we didn't get to Rockefeller Center. But it wasn't until sometime in 2002 when I picked up the video game Metal Gear Solid 2. Played it, of course, me being a Metal Gear Solid fan at that time, 16 years old. Actually, that was really the thing that motivated me to join the Marines because the game to me, while it was confusing and whatnot, the story was just, to me, still very good. And of course, there's this little thing at the end, of course, that's photos, the visuals of Federal Hall. I did not know that George Washington, our very first president of the United States, was actually inaugurated in Federal Hall in New York City. So the last time I went, back in September of 2022, I wanted to go to Federal Hall. I was with a couple of friends, with a friend, and of course his girlfriend, whatnot. Just somebody I serve with, of course, good friend of mine. Still talk to him today because I still speak to people I serve with. And of course, I wanted to go to Federal Hall because we were walking around Lower Manhattan. Federal Hall was closed. Couldn't get in there. So there's two things that I want to see. So when you think of Rockefeller Center and you think about the Christmas tree lighting, it kind of gets a little bit sentimental. Of course, the lighting is always a big deal, as you're going to see here. Some things that are just, how do I say this, very sentimental to people. And of course, one of those things is the tree lighting in Rockefeller Plaza in New York. Now, why is this so important? Well, to be honest with you, it's something that, quite frankly, happens to kind of signal to certain people out there. It's mostly symbolic, of course, but people feel it very special because it's very, very much a part of American culture. So imagine when you're seeing what I'm showing you now, which, of course, is people that were protesting at Rockefeller Center. People who, of course, pretty much started a riot out there. You'd probably think to yourself that people are beginning to get very, 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 and I mean very angry with the situation that's going on, not just in the Middle East, but the migrant crisis as well. And seeing how it is that the New York City Police Department has decided to, let's just say, do more budget cuts, including cutting the next 5 classes of police officers that are set to go through their academy, not to mention the fact that they've had roughly 2,500 police officers resign, not even with their pensions, not even wanting their pensions, then obviously this right here is going to be a problem. Now, I have said this on several occasions. The last thing you want to do is protest on behalf of somebody who naturally hates the United States. Let me say this over and over and over again. Most nations in the Middle East, always scream, death to America. It's not just Iran, it's the Palestinians, it's pretty much all Sunni Muslims and pretty much all Shia Muslims who live in that area. I'm not talking about Muslims who live here in the United States. It's a completely different situation. They come to the United States, they go through the process, they try to build an actual good community, good family, all that stuff there. They just simply tend to live a separate way of life. And obviously they have this thing where they're obviously going to side more with their homeland and their religion, especially over, say, Israel. But still at the same time, as I've said on multiple occasions, and we'll say one more time in this video, probably 5 or 6 more times, that's a bit of a lie. The thing is this right here. Anytime you simp for these people, they suddenly get emboldened. They think they have an ally, which of course that ally would be a faux ally because they don't really trust the United States. And then they eventually do crap like what you just saw. The protest, eventually riots, screaming and hollering, death to America, that type of stuff there, because that is what they do. It's ingrained in their culture. They've always been that way. Sharia law and everything that you're seeing in Islam, this right here is exactly what actually happens when you simp for these people. So you should never, ever, ever simp for these people, as the city of New York is once again being reminded of that. And of course, it's beginning to have a bit of a, let's just say it's taking a toll on the people's minds, but we'll get to that here in a second. So let's watch the initial news report of Rockefeller Plaza and what was expected to happen. And of course, we'll go back to those videos I showed you earlier in the cutaway, so that way you guys can see exactly what would end up happening one more time.
Just about a block away from the tree lighting is getting heated. CBS 2's Allie Bauer live in Midtown with the latest right now. Allie.
Hi, Maurice. Well, now the crowd is walking south on 6th Avenue here. I'm going to walk around so you can see the crowd that's making their way with police following closely behind them. Police have really been on top of this situation all evening, but as you said, things are heating up. Now, things started early on in the protest around 6 o'clock where people were gathering on 6th Avenue between where the tree lighting is and where News Corps is, where they started gathering. And kind of off the bat, we saw some quick fights break out with a man who was carrying a sign that had a swastika on it outside the protest. The situation had calmed down. People were protesting here. Of course, this is a protest for free Palestine and for a ceasefire. And then really just a few minutes ago, I'm not sure what exactly sparked it, but we just saw people start sprinting down 6th Avenue, police sprinting down 6th Avenue, and tensions began to rise. And there were clashes between protesters and police. We saw several arrests as well. We saw several fights break out. Right now, it seems like, the protesters have clearly made their way past where the barricades were to start marching. For the past couple hours or so, police have been trying their best to have the barricades up to keep the crowd contained in that kind of general region. But first, they broke past the barricades that were keeping them on the sidewalk, and now, just a short time ago, they broke past the barricades that were keeping them contained to the one square block right there. So right now, we don't have
obviously, as I've mentioned before, certain things are big in the city of New York. I obviously don't live there, and as I've mentioned before, I do a lot of content about what's going on there, criticize the politics and whatnot. But what I don't do is criticize people per se. I criticize their voting decisions. I'll say something like, you guys voted for this, but still at the same time, I'm hoping that people eventually, and how do I say this, eventually wake up from the slumber and realize that the city's not exactly the city that it once was. I mean, the culture has obviously changed. That sort of thing is going to happen, but still, I've said this on multiple occasions. One of the reasons why it is that we fight the culture war, so that way we can pass down certain traditions. Of course, the lighting at Rockefeller Plaza is one of those traditions. And people, of course, are starting to wake up to this. Now, there was another clip that I had put in here of a BLM leader practically endorsing Donald Trump for president. Of course, he was actually a former leader, was a co-founder of a Rhode Island chapter. He went on Fox News, and of course, he, for the most part, said this. I can't show the whole clip, but I'll show you just a little bit of it. And of course, some people have obviously gotten upset about this. And you got to wonder if these protests are not starting to change people's minds.
Give it to you straight. Trump has done more for the black community than any president I can think of in my lifetime.
And he's not alone in his criticism. President Biden faces dismal approval numbers among black voters in key swing states. Joining us now, the co-founder of Black Lives Matter Rhode Island, Mark Fisher. Mark, thanks so much for joining the program. This is my favorite story of the day because it identifies with what I've seen in the barbershop. All the brothers, for some reason right now, are turning tides right now. And I just wonder, what is the big reason?
I think personally, it's the duplicity of the Democrats, the hypocrisy. We're not stupid. The brothers are not stupid. We understand when someone's for us and when someone is not. And it's obvious that the Democratic Party is not for us.
Yeah, I keep...
Their policies actually strike at the heart of the black family and the nuclear family.
Yeah, so, you were a part of Black Lives Matter. You founded it there. And now you're saying, you're not saying the entire Republican Party, you're saying Donald Trump. So what is it about Donald Trump? Is it the economics? You noted the black family. What is it going to take for him to shore up this support amongst black voters?
Well, I just think that it's going to take information. A lot of people are misinformed. They don't really understand because they don't educate themselves on Donald Trump as a person and his history. But if they do that, and it's going to take, leaders, educated leaders, getting the word out there, I think that it'll happen on its own and it'll be organic because personally, I love the man. I mean, how could you not like a real...
So you guys can see that this is one voter that was a part of what is really a terrorist organization. So nobody's going to sit there and think to themselves, look, oh, he's being endorsed by all of BLM. No, he's not being endorsed by all of BLM. You see, you need voters to win. And these are people who are starting to wake up and realize that the Democratic Party is, in fact, trash. That's what's going on in this situation. So I think people need to kind of relax. I think they need to kind of chill. Also, to go on top of this, too, most conservatives are not online. Most conservatives are watching Fox News, Newsmax. They're watching even some YouTube outlets that will bring up tweets and then give them actual commentary and explanation, kind of like what I'm doing now, like what's going on. And they make their own mind up. So most people out there who saw this little endorsement didn't think to themselves that BLM was endorsing Trump. They thought about it and they're like, man, maybe it's a black voter who just said, look, I'm tired of the Democratic Party. They're trying to replace us, all the other BS I mention on this channel all the time. And they probably said to themselves, man, maybe we should vote for Trump. And most voters at home, conservative, even those who support DeSantis or Haley, are probably saying it's a good thing that the party's moving in the right direction. But, we may have to pick the orange guy to get over. I mean, that's the real truth of the situation. So all these attacks are coming online. They're just nonsensical. And there's even some people out there who are on the pro-Trump side who are aghast that Trump would put out a Truth Social post saying, thank you for your support. He's just doing what he normally does, trolling. And I can't believe you Trump fans. And by the way, I was not a Trump fan in 2016. I just simply voted for him. You Trump fans out there somehow or other completely missed the memo and completely missed it because you people don't really know the man the way a lot of others do. I've talked about black voters voting Republican before or changing their vote to Donald Trump. And of course, you've got people out there like, say, Matt Walsh and a bunch of other conservative personalities who are a little bit upset about this because apparently Donald Trump put out a Truth Social post, which I'm showing you guys here, which really in a lot of ways was just a good old-fashioned troll. He wasn't being endorsed by BLM. And of course, BLM had to come out and say that we would never, ever, ever endorse Donald Trump. And of course, Trump does what he normally does. He trolls people. He basically puts it out there. People go crazy. But of course, you see people saying to themselves, we don't want these voters. Okay, well, here's the thing. And I've said this on multiple occasions. I will always fight my enemy, okay? Unless my enemy puts down their sword, says, you know what, I'm open to listen. I'll have a conversation with them. Of course, I fought them hard. And of course, when they want to have a conversation, they begin to get a little bit more red pill. We have a conversation. And if they choose to come over, you bring them over. You gradually along. Doesn't mean you fully trust them for positions of power or anything, but you have a conversation with them. You talk to them. You ask them what's on their mind. What would you like to know? Why is it like this right here? It's kind of like what Jonathan Haidt's book, The Righteous Mind, said. Conservatives and moderates, they understand liberals, but liberals obviously don't understand conservatives and moderates. It's just how these people operate. By liberal, I really mean leftists, the infected, not the classical liberals, your Dershowitz types and those guys there. Of course, there's disagreements and some bewilderment on why it is they are the way they are. But then again, though, when you actually talk to them, they seem to understand. You seem to understand why it is they feel the way they do. But still, they still have a hard time understanding why it is that you feel the way you do. But still, those people we can have a conversation with. It's the radical leftists and those who simp for people who, quite frankly, are pro-Hamas. I'm sorry, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. And if I get attacked for being a shill, I really and truly don't care. If you're praising Palestine, then guess what? Chances are you're also praising Hamas too, because Hamas, for the most part, is Palestine. I don't think I have to go into it any further. But don't worry, we'll make more videos on it in the future because obviously this conflict is going to be taking some turns. Of course, it may end very soon, but still, I'm pretty sure you guys know where I'm coming from. But then you get to the topic of people's pocketbooks. You get to the topic of people's wallets. And then you factor in all these protests interrupting everyday life. And of course, you've got people out there who, quite frankly, are not okay with bringing over brand new voters, but yet I got to ask you a question. Are you going to reject these voters that you're about to see in this 2 minute and 40 second segment?
And the only borough with the Hispanic majority. President Biden got 83% of the vote here in 2020. But now the Biden campaign is seeing polls coming out saying President Trump is gaining traction with voters of color, even younger voters. So I came to the Bronx to put a face on the numbers, and I was shocked by what I heard on the streets. Do you think that President Biden is doing a good job with the economy?
No, he's not doing nothing to support nobody.
Is he doing a good job? Yes or no?
No. I can see we're all going to be in the streets homeless.
Biden and his press secretary said that prices are going down. Is that your experience or is that not true?
No, that is definitely not true. Prices are definitely going up. I used to go across the street to Fordham to go get me a meal. I can't even get me a meal because that meant $20.
Minority communities, we're not seeing the improvement. There's inflation with everything, food, gas, insurance prices. I mean, you name it.
Bidenomics is not working. It's just a complete mess. It's a disaster. Especially here in New York City, we're feeling it very hard.
If you could say anything to Biden right now, who says that the economy is improving, especially in black and brown communities, what would you say to him?
That's lies. I believe that's lies. Heavy lies on that, for sure.
Do you think that somebody else besides Biden should be president?
Yes,
next
of course. Bring back Trump.
Tell me why.
We had money. We had money when Trump was president.
Free my son Trump. Free my son Trump. Trump 2024, everybody. Trump 2022.
That's crazy. And we're here in the Bronx.
I'm gonna vote for Trump if he runs because I feel like it was much better when he was here financially for everybody. Not just me, for everybody.
I'm definitely voting for Donald Trump. He made sure we had money in our pockets. He was for the people. He made sure we had what we needed. I feel like everything will go back to how it was. I mean, ever since he's been out of office, everything's declined.
When Trump was president, my life was good. Economical-wise, I was doing so much better.
They're saying it's going to be Biden-Trump, so who will you vote for?
Oh, I ain't gonna lie, I'm gonna have to go for Trump. Sorry.
I'm gonna go for Trump. Trump. Always Trump.
Here, let me see. Who are you voting for?
Trump.
Feeling the pain of price hikes is one thing, but the show of open support for former President Donald J. Trump on the streets of the Bronx was very surprising. And it's the sort of thing that has Biden campaign strategists looking very carefully at the messaging around Bidenomics as we get closer to 2020.
Here's the real reason why it is that Democrats got upset when Trump's Univision interview went through with no Biden ads, and now they plan on actually running Trump ads, also Telemundo too. No more Jorge Ramos. He's been gone for a while. The guy was an absolute hack. Very, very funny story about Jorge Ramos. He showed us this video of apparently visiting a white supremacist. I was showing it in class. Of course, the guy who was teaching the class was very much a lib, but he didn't seem to understand that the video had already been debunked. And of course, he showed it to a bunch of students. That's just how these people are. The thing about Hispanic voters, you see, they were 27% for Republicans in 2012. Most of this was due to the fact that Univision and Telemundo, they're historically known for bad bouts of misinformation. How does a group of voters go from 45% voting for Bush in 2004 to then voting 38% for McCain and then voting 27% for Romney, but then now 29% for Trump in 2016, and then the numbers were 33 or 38%. I believe the David Shore number 36% in 2020. Chances are he's probably going to end up with right around 45 to 50% of the vote come 2024 if he's allowed to run ads on Univision Telemundo. That right there actually kills the Democratic Party. And of course, you've also got I know what somebody's going to say. Getting more black voters will not change anything. Actually, it would return. It would actually flip Georgia back, keep North Carolina intact. And it might also help out up north, especially with third parties, especially in areas like, say, states like Pennsylvania and Michigan, where you got Cornel West. These types of things, of course, could eventually happen. But Hispanic voters, that right there is very important, especially in Bronx, New York. Now, I believe if even any Republican, not just Trump, but let's say that you flip, or let's just say you make moderately conservative Staten Island more conservative, and let's just say that you get some additional voters in Brooklyn. Let's say you're able to put a dent inside the Bronx and maybe even a dent in Queens. You may be able to overcome or at least overcome a low turnout election. You may be able to overcome the votes, especially with third parties, to get over in the state of New York. You see, you don't just turn voters away, okay? You don't just do that. So people like Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro and the people at the Daily Wire and, of course, all the DeSantis people, who, by the way, put together a great debate performance last night against Newsom. I got to give the man credit. Then again, I think anybody could beat Newsom, but he was really good. I mean, of course, people are going to attack me for that online, but that's okay. I mean, I can take it. I'm a big boy. But still, at the same time, you don't want to turn voters away because you see this crowd of radical leftists, this crowd of this pro-Hamas crowd is interrupting everybody's daily lives. So, of course, while it happens, and now you factor in the migrant crisis, these people are starting to realize, look, I don't really have any money. You know, things have gotten worse since Biden was in office. I put him in there. I was wrong. I made a mistake. Let them come to that realization. Don't turn these people away. You're going to need these people to get over because guess what? Eventually, we're going to have to unite as a nation or unite as a party to get the current administration out. That's how elections work. That's how taking back power works. By the way, it's really about power, having the power to wield that power the proper way. Hopefully you can with the right kind of mandate because you know what? You're also going to need Republicans to also get in there to actually work with the Republican president because Democrats are just going to obstruct him. So to the pure Trump crowd, too, who's crapping on the GOP right now, I understand where you're coming from, and they do deserve to be crapped on, but still at the same time, you got to vote up ballot Republican to get people in to help former President Trump. So I just figured I would say that. It's actually a criticism of both sides of the right or both pieces of the right that are running their mouth because some presidential candidate decided to say, thank you for your support. Thank you I'm glad that I got BLM's endorsement, obviously as a troll, so that way he could remarry BLM to the Democratic Party, and therefore people in people's eyes will say, you know what, man, this guy right here is trying to actually unite the country. It's actually a good thing to do. And of course, given everything that's going on, given the fact that it's the Christmas season, and given the fact that you've got all these pro-Hamas supporters that are disrupting everyday life, it would be a bad idea to turn away people who are open to supporting your side. And that right there is the video I wanted to make for tonight, guys. Make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sound off in the comment section. I would love to get you guys' thoughts on this entire situation. One more thing to go on top of this. I want you guys to know right off the bat that there may be a video that comes out on Sunday. We'll definitely be getting back to posting. Tomorrow's going to be kind of a busy day for me. Got to take care of some personal stuff. And Tuesday's probably going to be a day where I can't really get any content out. So expect a bunch of videos between Sunday and Monday to kind of bump up the algorithm. And, of course, I'd be back, of course, on Wednesday. Just kind of give you guys a bit of an overlay. There's going to be a massive updates video that comes out later on this year, right towards the end, right before Christmas, before I go on a bit of a Christmas break and then come back. So make sure you guys stick around for that, too, where we'll give you actually full updates, letting you guys know what the hell is going on. So, make sure you guys stick around for that as well, and make sure you guys have a good weekend, and I'll see you guys later.